Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited to see you all. Glad you are here. If you are new, I'm Renee. I'm really excited to see you. Thanks for coming to see us today. Today, we're going to be talking about your message. We're going to be talking about the fact that sometimes it can be seem like a big mess. And hopefully, you can turn that mess into a message, and a message not only that matters to you, but that matters to a lot of people. And so we're going to start out. I'm going to give you a little bit of a story about a mess that turned into a message in sort of my life's work, and then talk about a couple of things that you can think about if you have a mess in your life that you would like to change in that message. And so thinking back to when I helped redesign our mental health system in our state. So I had been a therapist in our state. And at that point in time, I had worked in the children's system. I had worked as an in-home family therapist. I had worked as a foster parent. I was specifically hired at that point in time to take care of high-level needs kids coming out of institutions and trying to get them stabilized and be able to move down into lower levels of foster care. And so my full-time job was taking care of kids. And I realized at that time, the mental health system in my state didn't really work. It didn't work for a lot of reasons as a therapist, and it didn't really work for my foster kids. And I can give you a couple of examples. On the therapist side, we were having to upload at that point in time all information into a computer, but the state would require us to print off all of that information and carry it in shipping boxes to the state where it had to be re-uploaded into their computers, as one example. I know today that makes no sense, but back then that was the way it was done. On the foster care side, I would get kids and I wouldn't be able to get the information that I needed to get them in school. They would have school paperwork, but it would always be delayed and really far behind, and we couldn't get the information we needed to get them in the right level of classes or to get them the right supports. And it was just super frustrating as a parent trying to help kids that had had a lot of trauma in their background and needed a lot of help. And so that became my message. I was asked to run for office back in what year was that? 2005, to run for office for 2006. What I know now, I probably should have never done that at that time. It was a terrible time for anybody to run for office, especially in my background. But I didn't know better. And so when somebody asked me, why, Renee, would you run for office? I said, well, to fix the mental health system. And they looked at me and said, nobody runs to do that. And I'm like, well, then I'm not going to do it, because that's the only reason I would do this. I don't really care about running for office. Shoot, I had never even gone to school to pay attention to history or politics or nothing. So why in the world would I want to get in the middle of this mess? But I had a mess, right? Foster care was a mess. Working as a therapist was a mess. And so I was like, maybe I could go make a difference and change the system. That became my message. And so I ran for office, made a difference, got elected. I won some, I lost some. Since then, I've been a consultant, I've been in government relations, and I continue to work on the mess that is our mental health system. And sometimes it's still a mess. There are pieces that are fixed. Like, for example, that idea I talked to you about having to upload it in a computer, drive it all across the state, and then re-upload it in another computer. We fixed that. You can now accept electronic documents. That wasn't even a hard fix, but nobody had had the thought before. But because of that mess, we could go fix it. Some of things like that were very easy. Other things, not so easy. And it's taken a decade of work to get the funding mechanisms we needed to get some of the systems changed. And so it's a long process sometimes. But let me tell you, if you're a person and you have a mess that you want to turn into a message, where do you start? Well, I would start in the research stage. Lots of people don't really start here, but it's been really helpful to me. So like I said, I didn't come from the traditional background of how to get to be a person that worked in policy. I'm not a lawyer, didn't go to law school, didn't even like law, really could care less about history. That was not me. But I'm really good at research. And so what I started out with is figuring out what are the rules about whatever it was that I cared about. Why are the things the way they are? I asked a lot of questions. And sometimes the answers were, well, that's just the way it is. So my next question would be, well, could we change it? And lots of the time, the answer is yes. So starting at research and finding out why things are the way they are and whether or not things can be changed is always really important to changing that mess to a message. Then the second thing that I would worry about if you were somebody thinking about a message is knowing how other people talk about it. So you might have a really good understanding of your issue. Like when I was a foster parent, I could explain real clear about my challenges with some of my kids. One of my young ladies, I don't think she could read. And at the point I got her, she was around 7th grade, but she'd been getting passed around from house to house, place to place. And what she would do would be explode in school with all kinds of behaviors to cover up that she really wasn't good at reading. And we struggled to get the paperwork that we needed, the background information, the testing that she had done to prove it, to get the kid the help that she needed. And that was really, really frustrating. But when I started to reach out to talk to people about that, they didn't understand that issue at all. A lot of people assumed that wasn't a thing, that was not even a problem. How could that possibly be? So I had to learn the language of the people around me to have a discussion so that we could talk about the same things. I might call it one thing as a foster parent, where the school and the education system called it something else, or the governor's office could have called it something completely different. And so how do we all talk about the same topic on the same language? And right now today, you can think of examples of this right now. So think about your favorite topics, masks and or vaccines, either one of those. Most of the time, a lot of the fights are about words, about the words that people use to describe those two issues. One of the big words that's a trigger for a lot of people, mandate, right? From the public health perspective, they're trying to get enough people immunized to be able to move through this disease like we did measles, mumps, rubella, all the others. But mandate gets in there. And then the other side does not like mandates, right? It's about anti-freedom in their language, right? So how would you navigate through that conversation? Well, you got to know what each side is saying to be able to make that mess a message. And if you're looking around like I am, there's not a lot of people doing a very good job of that, right? They pick their side, their language, and then they fight instead of trying to figure out what is it that you're concerned about? What do you care about? Why are you up against or for it one way or the other? And let's see if we can come to common ground. So if you have a mess that you need to turn into a message, those are the two things I would recommend. Do the research first, figure out what can be done about the situation. Like, is it a law? Is it a rule? Is it a policy? Is it at the workplace? Is it a cultural shift? What is the issue that's causing the mess? And then can you change it? That's a really important thing. What does it take to change it, right? And then the second piece is, what do other people say about the issue? When I'm describing it, I think of it in my language and my terms. But what do other people call it? Do they have different language for it? Do they call it different things? Because you're not going to ever be on the same page on a message if we're all talking off a different song sheet, right? We're not singing the same lyrics to the same songs, to the same tune. That causes a really big mess. And you're trying to clean up the mess with your message. The final thing I want to tell you about today is there are some big changes coming to this group. I can't tell you all about it right now, but next Monday, you're going to not want to miss it. We're going to be talking about the vision for this group, be talking about the next directions that we're going. We're going to continue on the self-care journey, but we're going to add to it. We're going to talk more about messaging. We're going to talk more about fixing policies and making things healthier in our lives so that we can be healthy all around. And sometimes it's not about just us making decisions for us, but us making decisions that impact more people so that health can be a bigger topic than just ourselves. And so come and see us next Monday, same time, same place. We're going to be noon on Monday, casting a new vision for this group. And I cannot wait to see you all there. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And I hope you're doing well, and we'll talk to you really soon. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.